doses. Self-help from the hip. Small doses. We're talking that shit. Small doses. And keeping it real. Small doses. With me and them seals. It's so funky. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am here with Errin Haines, journalist, thug, nerd. But today is about journalism. Errin is I feel like I'm so far from the mic. Hold on, I need to sit down here. Oh, sorry, sir. I'm sorry. Hold on.
Because you know he's right there.
So that's the puppy.
Look at it. Oh my God, he's performing. He's hilarious. I can't even take it.
So I am here with Errin Haines from the 19th. Errin, today's topic is side effects of journalism. And before we started recording, my producer and engineer were like, oh, this is going to be good because Amanda is always like, journalism is dead. We don't have any real journalists anymore. And I want to talk to someone who actually is a real journalist about what journalism even means at this point. Because I think that there's definitely a disconnect between what it was and what it is. But before we go into that, I would love for you to give some folks some background on your professional path and journey.
Yeah. Well, hey, Amanda, I'm glad we're doing this. I'm going to go ahead and put real journalist in my Twitter bio so that people have that. They know that. We'll just start from there. So I am a native of Atlanta and started my career at the Associated Press, which is the world's largest and oldest news gathering organization, right? And so I was doing that job in Atlanta, my hometown, and writing for a national audience about issues of race, covering things like HBCUs, the middle class, Black community in Atlanta, the Black electorate was a big focus of mine. And what I started my career really writing about was kind of the vestiges of the Jim Crow era, the dying out.
Now you see, she just said vestiges. That's how you know we dealing with something different. Vestiges? I don't think that's a word ever been said on this show.
That's a real journalist word right there. That's a real journalist word, vestiges. So so like the vestiges of racism and the progress that was supposed to have come from the civil rights movement.
Right.
And covered the election of the first Black president, but I was the race reporter for the Associated Press in my previous role. And now I work at the 19th, which is a new nonprofit newsroom that's focused on women in politics. And we try to center marginalized women in particular. And unfortunately, a lot of what my career has been as of late has been the retrenchment of racism in America and the loss of a lot of the progress that I think that we've seen. So, people that have mentored me in my life, I have conversations with them now where we're talking about the fact that I'm writing about a lot of the things that they were writing about, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, which is kind of disheartening, right?
How important has mentorship been in this process for you? Because I think that's something that's kind of like not regarded in the same way as it once was.
Well, mentorship is critical. I can say from the Black journalists who have mentored me, it has been essential to talk to them because, oftentimes you're one of a few, if not the only Black journalist in your newsroom. And so you need to have, somebody that you can talk to and being able to talk to people who unfortunately have fought a lot of the same kind of fights that you may be fighting in a newsroom is very helpful. And also to have those kind of folk encourage you for them to be able to let you know that they see the work that you're doing, that you are actually making a difference. Like that's hugely important because that's not always something that can come from colleagues who are not Black, right? And who do not know about the importance of this work. But for my white colleagues who have been mentors, frankly, for them to be allies and really to be advocating on my behalf and to be able to, see themselves in me, even though I don't necessarily look like them, right? But I have the talent, the ability, and the motivation that feels familiar to them, right? Like that has been a catalyst for my growth and promotion, like throughout my career. So mentors are essential, is what I would say.
I feel like the reason why I asked that question is because I feel like when it comes to this idea of journalism as a career, it's become tell me if you agree with me that the concept of what a journalist is has become very broad.
Yeah.
Like, what do you feel like it is at this point? And then I'll tell you what I think it is.
Well, I will say, I mean, longevity in this industry, it can be challenging. I mean, the economic downturn of 2008 certainly took a toll on diversity in journalism, and it is an industry that I have seen beat down many of my colleagues, particularly colleagues of color, trying to tell the truth in public, but also trying to keep their job. I mean, that has been a real challenge for folks, and also trying to frankly feed themselves and support themselves and their families. I think,
is it that like there's just not as many spaces that value the truth?
Well, I mean, I think there definitely have been. It's funny, like I would say maybe at the beginning of my career, there were a lot more people that would kind of try to steer folks away from reporting about race. Like, right, they would say, oh, you don't want to pigeonhole yourself by just writing about race, when we know that race is the story of America. Like that, like it intersects with every aspect of our society. And like, if you're not going to be somebody who understands, like has a deep and abiding understanding of race and racism and how that works in America, you are not doing the most honest and accurate reporting that you can do as a journalist. So, I mean, to me, I never saw that as a liability, but I know that that certainly is a challenge for folks who are trying to build a career, but are working in spaces and places where people don't value that expertise and see it as a liability rather than an asset, right?
I just feel like it's become more about opinion than because you can have an expert opinion and you can have just an opinion.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, I think that the cable news space has conflated that for a lot of people, unfortunately. The 24/7 news cycle means that you have a lot of people, on cable news shows. You will have a panel of experts, right? Like you may have a journalist and you may have, a politician, but you may also have like a political strategist. And then you may have a columnist. Like all those people are up there together, right?
And an actor.
So like in people's minds, like when they see somebody, they see somebody who's working, at a journalistic outlet, like they don't necessarily discern whether that person is columnist or reporter, right? Like that, even though that title can be under the person's name. Well, I mean, if somebody's a columnist, they are opining for money, right? Like they are telling you what they think as opposed to reporting on what other people think, which is what I do. My feelings and opinions on any given topic are not relevant. That's not the point. I mean, I have a perspective to be sure, and I have, an expertise and an authority that I bring to the work. But like what I think about the things that I'm writing about, that's not the point. That is the point for somebody who's a columnist.
So as a reporter, as a reporter and as someone who considers themselves a journalist, how important is that unbiasedness to the work that you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think,
or is it unbiased? Am I wrong in saying that?
Well, I think what you're getting at is the conversation that we're having in our industry right now around the question of objectivity, right? And like what that means. And I have really, I'm not somebody who, even though I was raised in kind of a traditional journalism environment, and that is my foundation, right? Like the idea of objectivity, like I know that is something that originated with white men, and when being white and male is your default setting, objectivity is really easy, to have, or to be something that you say that you have. For me, being fair and being honest and being accurate.
Yes,
that's the point for me, and that is what I think we should be striving for in journalism. All of us have biases. Yeah. all of us have biases. I think that having an awareness of what those biases are, right? Like that can inform the journalism. But acting like they don't exist, that's just not real. And again, like I would just say that like people's lived experiences, like that can though bringing that to the journalism can improve the work, especially for Black and brown journalists in this country, right? Because I mean, so many of the things that we're talking about right now amid this like national reckoning on race are things that Black and brown journalists tried to tell you long before, you know, we had headlines and hashtags, right? But like we were ignored, or we would say, oh, well, you know, should you be covering this because, you know, you're Black or you're brown? And it's like, well, hello, like I'm actually somebody who either has experienced this directly or knows somebody who has experienced this directly. So I know these things to be true. Like I can accept this on its face instead of, you know, being somebody who is like skeptical of the idea that maybe the police do not treat everybody the same.
So basically like the sentiment of maybe you should recuse yourself from this story because you're too close to it. That happens.
Oh, it absolutely happens. And you know, and what I say to that is, you know, I didn't see anybody, you know, questioning white reporters who were sent to cover Tea Party rallies or, you know, the Occupy protests. Like nobody thought that there was anything wrong with them covering those things, or women reporters who might have gone to cover the Women's March, right? Like covering that as a journalist. Does it help to be a woman at the Women's March who is a reporter? Like, absolutely, it helps. You know. I don't understand that argument personally. So,
what keeps you dedicated to this work when it feels like there's just like you said, like you've seen your colleagues and people that you really trusted, you know, when you've seen them go through the pitfalls and be silenced and their work be stolen, because they be stealing work too.
Well, they do steal. They have stolen. LOL.
Because that's going down.
Yeah, plagiarism is.
So what keeps you like, this is the purpose I have to be driven to?
Yeah, I mean, look, I will not say that there are not hard days. I will not say that there are not you know, days that are discouraging in this work, and you know, you're writing these stories and wondering if you're making a difference or if anybody's listening. I will tell you, like on days that I feel like that those are the days when I really, really want to talk to one of my mentors, right? Like I am a member of the National Association of Black Journalists, which is celebrating its 45th anniversary this year.
Yes, the NABJ.
And the amazing thing about NABJ is that a lot of our founders are still alive. Right. And so these are people that we can talk to about what it was like for them when they started. And it's amazing to talk to them about that kind of stuff. Right. Like, and so when I'm feeling low, I will call one of them and I will say, you know, tell me about what it was like when you were trying not to get your ass beat, trying to cover, you know, a protest,
right.
You know, 50 years ago, or what it was like when you were covering a trial that you could see was totally unfair. What was that like? What did that feel like when you were doing that, or when your white colleagues didn't believe you, or were trying to steer you away from something that you knew was important, a story that needed to be told, and their encouragement definitely has kept me going, and their stories about you know, their war stories, frankly, from what it was like to be on the front lines of trying to tell the truth about America, like those stories have been very important, and they just remind me that like, all of us, you know, we may not be the journalists that see police reform really, you know, come to pass, right? Like we may not be the journalists that you know, I don't know that we're going to be the journalists or the Black people that see the end of systemic racism in our lifetimes, right? But like that didn't stop Ida B. Wells.
Do you have any war stories that? Well, first of all, do you mentor at this point?
Yes. I do mentor because it's important. And I think, you know, especially for Black women who, you know, maybe are thinking about covering race or thinking about covering politics.